Hey guys! So today, I will be showing you on how you can create your own domain expansion. But first, let me clear something. On this video, we will be focusing only on the domain structure. So it is only about loading and unloading the domain structure. No skills or abilities included yet, since that will depend on what kind of domain expansion you will be making. So anyway, for this tutorial, I will be using the infinite void structure as an example. And for the activation method that I used here, it is the item drop detection. And for the deactivation method, I used the sneak detection method. But if you have a good knowledge about commands, you can just modify those parts depending on your creation. So anyway, let's get to the demonstration. So, here's what it looks like. Just drop the item to activate the domain. And in my case, I am using trial key as the activator item. So after dropping it, your domain will appear. Now to lift the domain, you just need to hold the item, then sneak. Yeah, as easy as that. Now let's get to the tutorial. So first thing that you need to do is to build your own domain structure. But if you want to follow this tutorial, your domain structure must not exceed 64 by 64 blocks. Since that is the max size capacity of the structure that you can save using a single structure block. You can do smaller structure, the only point is that it shouldn't exceed 64 by 64 blocks. And actually, the smaller your structure is, the easier you can do the commands. However, for this example, this domain structure that I have is a 61 by 61 blocks. For the height of your structure, well, it's up to you, just make it reasonable. So let's say you already done building your domain. Now you need to set up a structure block. Adjust the bounding box to make your whole structure fit inside. You can adjust the bounding box through size and offset setting in the structure block. By the way, don't just copy the size and offset that I have here, since it will depend on your own domain. You can see here if your structure is already inside the bounding box. If your domain doesn't require any armor stands or any entities inside, then I would recommend that you turn this one off. Now to make it sure, I also recommend you to double check if the sides of your structure is already inside the bounding box. You can check that through these lines. Now if you think that your whole structure is already inside the bounding box, we can now save it using the structure block. Just a tip, if you prefer that your domain will not disturb any blocks outside, you can use structure void to make it looks good on the outside. It's okay if you don't want to. Now save your structure under the name domain. Alright, after saving it, let's proceed to the commands. Let's start by saving the item activator using structure block. And in my case, I will be using a trial key. Just rename the item, domain key. Alright, now let's save it in a structure block. We can save it in a 1x1 bounding box. Just copy this setup. And name the structure domain underscore key. Now let's put the item. Alright, now we can save it. Then add a unique tag to yourself, so that you are the only one who can use the domain expansion. Now for our first command block, let's put a command that will kill the specific item that we drop. So this command will kill the item that we drop, if the item's name is domain key. And since that command killed the item, we need a command to bring back that item. Remember that we saved the item earlier through structure block. This command will load that item to us. Now let's try. Every time we drop the item, we get a new one. Now let's add a different tag to ourselves. It will indicate that we activated the domain. So when we drop the item, this command will give us this domain_activated tag. Now let's add an activation sound effect. This one is optional. If you don't want to add a sound effect, then skip this. This sound will be played once we got the domain_activated tag. Now let's add an activation animation. This one is also optional. If you don't want to put an animation, then skip this. So same condition as the previous command. Once we got the domain_activated tag, this animation will be played. Now, we need to use an armor stand as the base point of our domain structure. So when we drop the item, this command will summon an armor stand named domain. But we're not done yet with this command, since we need to add the right coordinates here. Now, we need to use some of our brain cells here, since we will be doing a little bit of mathematics. Because we need to do some solving to get the right coordinates on where the domain armor stand should be summoned. Here's the formula. So, it will be the first set of coordinates minus the second set of coordinates. And the answer should be written as a relative coordinates. And in case you don't know what relative coordinates are, it is just the coordinates that has tilde on the beginning. So anyway, let's get now the first coordinates. For the first coordinates, you just need to copy the coordinates of the origin of bounding box. To simply describe it, it's the closest coordinates near the blue, red, and green lines of the bounding box. Make sure that the coordinates you're getting is the chords that are inside the bounding box. Now after copying the chords, let me just paste it in my book, so that I can show you how you can solve it. Next, let's get the second chords. For the second coordinates, that will be the coordinates on where you want yourself to be positioned inside the domain. So let's say, I want myself to be right here when I activate the domain. Let me just put a mark, so that you can see that the coordinates that I'm getting is right. Now after you copy the coordinates, let me put it again on my book. Alright, now I have all of the information I need for solving. So time to use my brain cells. I'll just show you my solution on screen. Now put your answer on the 6th command. Perfect. After that, let's put a command to save the blocks nearby before we deploy our domain. So when we drop the item, this command will save the terrain nearby, so that we can load the terrain again later. But wait, we need a second set of coordinates here. You can get that by simply looking at the size of your structure. Let's check the size on the structure block. Once you know the size of your structure, you just need to reduce the chords by 1. So since mine is 61 35 61, it will then be 60 30 for 60. Also, don't forget to turn them into a relative coordinates, just add a tilde. And add false on the end, so that the command will not save entities, just blocks only. Now let's put a command to load our domain structure. Now after the previous command saved the terrain, this command will deploy our domain structure. Then, let's just make sure that the domain armor stand will not move on its place. Alright, we're done now with the activation part. Now let's move to deactivation part. Let's start with a sneak detection command. So when we sneak while holding the activator item, the domain_activated tag will be removed from us. Now if you want, you can also put a deactivation animation. This animation will be played when the domain_activated tag has been successfully removed. Now you can also put a deactivation sound effect. So this sound will be played if the domain_activated tag has been removed. Now let's add a command to remove the domain structure and bring back the original terrain. So once the domain_activated has been removed, everything will be back to normal, like the domain wasn't even there in the first place. Now we need the domain armor stand to be removed when we deactivate the domain. The domain armor stand will be killed when the domain_activated tag has been removed from us. Alright, we can do our first domain testing now. But of course, it would be better if we test it far away, to prevent the command blocks from being destroyed. Make sure you apply ticking area on the command blocks to make them work even if you're far away. Alright, let's try to activate and deactivate the domain. You see, I am in my preferred location when I activate the domain. In case you forgot, The redstone block is the mark that I put earlier. That is the domain armor stand. Alright, we're not done yet by the way. The next two commands that we need to add are situational. If your domain structure is more than 50 by 50 blocks, then you need to put this commands. Since if your domain structure is big, you need to put a ticking area around it. But if your domain structure is less than 50 by 50 blocks, you can skip this part. So once the domain armor stand has been summoned, this ticking area command will be activated. And for the second coordinates here, it should be the same as the one in your 7th command block. Now we also need to make the new ticking area be removed automatically. So when the domain armor stand has been removed, this command will also remove the ticking area that it created. Oh wait, let me just put a note here. You also need to put this command only if you also put the 15th command. Now for the last command, let's make the domain armor stand invisible. Awesome, we're done now with the commands. Now let's put it to the test again. Let me just move away. Alright, it seems everything is working. Now let me also give you an extra tip. If you will be adding skills on your domain expansion, you can utilize the domain_activated tag, so that your skills can only be activated when the domain is active. Here are some examples. So it would be something like this. Yeah, cool. Anyway, special thanks for Caldine for huge support. And everyone who always watch my videos. I love you guys. And because of that, bye.